I've had a busy last couple of months. Spent 3 weeks in Thailand, about a week in Vietnam. It's taken me a bit of time to get the photos that I took of the birds that I photographed in Thailand edited so I can do this video. Am I happy with the Z6II now that I've taken to Thailand? Absolutely. I've stated that a few months ago I sold the D500, went to the Z6II. I had my reasons. I lost that 10 frames per second advantage that the D500 has. I only could shoot at 5.5 frames per second unless I went into extended continuous high, 14 frames per second, but then you lose tracking of birds as they're flying across the sky or whatever. Most of the time I was stuck at 5.5 frames per second. I'm getting used to shooting that, but sometimes if the bird is still, or if it's just hunting like an egret that's just hunting around, I will swap to 14 frames per second because it's not going to be moving fast, and even if it takes off, the focal plane is about the same, so I'm still going to get a couple of very nice photos of it taking off. This beautiful bird here was my bucket list photo. Why? I'll tell you that at the end of the video, because that's when I'm going to show you these photos. I am just amazed at how good the Z6II is for photographing birds. I have used it here for quite a while, but I told a mate of mine, I don't know if it's because I've had a break for nearly a month and a half of editing and all that, but when I came back I was refreshed and I looked at my photos and go like, hey, I am wasting so much time putting effort editing photos when I don't really need to. I was very fortunate. It was my 60th. I got a bit of money, so I was able to buy some new software, and the new software that I bought was Topaz Denoise and Topaz AI Sharpen. I'm going to do a video on these two pieces of plugin software for Lightroom in about a month's time when I've had more time to use it. But I can tell you right now, I've only been using it for a week and it is fantastic. But now let's get on, and I'm going to show you some of the beautiful birds that I photographed in Thailand, and sometimes the difficulty that I found photographing these birds. This is the first bird, the common Myna. We have them here everywhere. They are so difficult to photograph. Even here, as soon as you get close to them, they're gone. In Thailand, these are one of the birds that people catch to then take it to the temple and people make an offering, let them go again. So you can understand why they're very flighty in Thailand. But I did manage to get one photo of one in the park and a couple of photos of two fledglings that was just on an electric fence near where my mother-in-law lives. And I was just sitting outside, just watching the birds flying around, and I just noticed these. These were quite a way away, and I was still able to get a couple of nice shots of these two fledglings before they flew off. Now we have bee eaters in Australia here. This one here, same family, but slightly different colouring. When I walked into this rice field, it was just sitting out there in the open. As soon as I pointed my camera up, it flew off and hid in the undergrowth. And this was the best photo that I could get of it. It's called the Asian green bee eater. Beautiful colouring and all that. This was a beautiful bird, and it was just so nice to see it. Now this bird is called a pied bushchat, commonly found around rice fields or that. They eat insects, like similar to willy wagtails around here. They just fly around looking for small insects, and they like perching high above the rice fields to look at where all the insects are flying about. This is the male, this is the female, which was quite close. This is another shot of a male, and you can see it's just perched up there. The female also just perched up onto a wooden stump. The next bird is a brown shrike. This bird, I saw it in the rice field where I saw the bee eater. This one was in the rice field. It was just overlooking the rice field. Similar, they just hunt insects. And look at the colour of it. It is so beautiful. I took quite a few photos of this bird in different poses. Look at this. It's calling out here. Same bird. And then I fluked it. I took a photo just as it flew off. I didn't realise that I had taken this photo until I looked back on the camera and I go like, yes, beauty, I got it. This is why sometimes it pays just to be patient sometimes. Just sit down and watch the bird. It was just sitting there in the drizzling rain and all of a sudden decided to itch itself. It just looks amazing. It's all tucked into itself and scratching itself. This Ashy Woodswallow, very similar to our wood swallows here, quite a little bit bigger bird, beautiful, flies so quickly. In flight, it just looks amazing. Now this little zebra dove is similar to our peaceful doves, quite a small bird. If they're on the ground in the undergrowth, you can hardly see them. Around the eye there, it's got some blue. Late afternoon or early morning, when the light is soft, that blue really is iridescent. And I got a couple of photos for it around the suburbs and also near the rice field where it was having a nest. It's just building its nest out of some leaves and little twigs. As soon as it saw me, it sort of moved away from the nest and flew off. Look at the undergrowth. It blends in quite well. I didn't realize they were there until I started zooming in with the lens. Then I could spot it. But with the naked eye, I wasn't able to see it as it was about 10 meters away from me. This is the bird that I was so surprised at high ISO that I got such a clear picture. It's not just the camera. The camera did its job, but also with Topaz denoise and Topaz AI sharpen. Photo looks great, you'll have to admit. Look at it, it's beautiful. This is a common Tailorbird. Why they call it common? Because it's found just about all parts of Thailand. I forgot to mention, where I photographed these birds was in the northwestern part of Thailand, around Lampang, quite close to Chiang Mai, right up in the north up there. So if you look on the map, look for Chiang Mai. Just below Chiang Mai is Lampang. This is how it came off the camera. 500mm, 1/1000th of a second. This was at sunset. The bird was in a shaded undergrowth. You can see the noise there. f5.6, ISO 10,000. On the D500, I would have just about thrown away this photo because it was also heavily cropped. That's how much I cropped. 24 meg full frame sensor, and I cropped it down to that size. If I had the D500 cropping it down like that, it would have been so noisy. When you crop like that, you're magnifying that noise. That 10,000 could become 20,000 because you're just highlighting that noise so much more. On the left is before, on the right is after. You can see I've hardly touched the coloring on the bird. The background is a bit darker. I've done that on purpose so that I can highlight the bird. That's the beauty of editing. You want to highlight your subject. Like this on the left, it wouldn't have stand out as much. I wanted my bird to pop, but without doing too much to the bird itself. I adjusted the background, I darkened the background, softened the background. But look, the bird is so sharp. And remember, it's only really about this big on the frame. This is why I'm in love with the Z6II. A lot of people can it, but if you use it for what it's tended to, it is a great camera. And I would recommend it if you're a wildlife photographer. You just have to know that there are limitations to it. You won't be able to shoot at 10 frames per second. Maybe Nikon will bring out a firmware, so we'll have eye tracking. That would be great, but I'm getting used to it. The D500 didn't have eye tracking. It didn't have tracking at all. We still got good photos, so we just make do with what we have. This was the last photo I took of it. It had flown off onto another perch, and then it started calling, and only being at 1/1000th of a second, it's quite a slow shutter speed. You can see the wings are moving, but I like it because it just shows movement. Sometimes we like to bring a very fast shutter speed, like 2.5, 3,200th of a second to freeze frame. If I had tried that at this time of the day, my ISO would have been maybe 40,000, totally unusable. So I just accept it. Now this next bird is the Eurasian tree sparrow. They always stay in a small flock. You'll never see them by themselves. Minimum I saw in a flock, around 8 to 10 birds. And here there was a lot more, but I could only fit this many in the frame because I was zoomed out to 500. I'd taken a couple of shots of them. Just as I decided to stop, the last frame, this male took off. Very easy to identify male and female. This is the male up the top here, and down the bottom here, and to the left are the females. They don't have that black patch on their neck. So this is a very easy way to identify them. But you have to admit, they are a very colourful bird. Now we don't get sunbirds here. This is the olive-backed sunbird. We have a similar version here in northern Queensland. I was unlucky not to be able to get the male. I only saw it once in the bushes really couldn't get a clean shot of it. I realized that the female kept coming back every day, feeding on hibiscus flowers, feeding on the nectar. I set up, waited for it. Normally came around at about 9 o'clock in the morning. So beautiful, very curved beak. It's just such a beautiful bird. Wish I had photographed the male. We called these in Australia just chestnut-breasted manakins. Over there they call them Scaly-breasted Munias. Very popular bird. They're just everywhere, always in flocks, never less than about 10 or 15 birds. In the rice field, sometimes I've seen like 50 or 100 birds in a flock. The males and females look the same, apart from the way to tell if they're breeding, especially the female, is she loses a lot of her scaly feathers on her belly because she's sitting on eggs. They just feed on seeds and all that around, and this was taken just across the road from my in-laws' place. Now for my bucket list bird. This is the white-vented Myna. Why is it my bucket list bird? I have seen this bird so many times in Thailand. When I lived there, I used to feed him near the apartment where I was. The characteristics of this bird, I haven't seen another bird in Thailand that has the same characteristics. It won't just fly down and eat. It looks at it, and I got some photos of it. Why was I saying it was my bucket list bird? Because they are so hard to photograph. The day before we left Thailand, we'd just gone to a park, we were coming home, and as we're coming home, I looked and it was just beside the road. And something that I'd realized was every time I got away from the car or walked around, it flew away. So my wife reversed our car up quite close to it. It wasn't paying attention to the car. I opened the passenger door very slowly, got out of the car, and just got to the back of the car so I could photograph this bird. And it really didn't see me, so it was just carrying on walking around. Then it came into the road. It's slowly walking away from me, not because it's seen me, it's found something on the road. It's looking down right below its beak there. Can you see? It's just looking sideways. It's just taking a peek. No, it's not food. And look at it. It's like a soldier, up standing straight, and it's just strutting its stuff. And that's how they walk. And this is why I was saying it was my bucket list bird. And this really is my bucket list photo, because it just displays what this bird is. And sometimes it's great to get birds in flight and all that. But when you get a bird that you know has a specific characteristics and you're able to take a photo of it, I say good on you, because for me this is my bucket list photo and I'm going to be printing this to put in my home office. So as you can see, I took some great photos. Not a lot of different bird species, there's so many more around. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. Bye for now.